there was an article that I read a long time ago.
That's our introduction.
No, it isn't.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Oh, hey, it's the Lore Foundry.
It's the Lore Foundry.
I don't think we said that last time.
We didn't.
That's okay.
Yeah, we'll survive. In any case, we've got another recording for you
Yeah.
shortly after the previous one. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, it's getting a little sweltery in this room.
It's honestly,
Like, it could be
I'm
a
the
lot
one
worse.
in long-ish
I
sleeves.
mean,
It's a baseball tee. I get. Well, it's a little bit longer than a baseball tee, and jeans, and I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
Our body mass index is not that different, Greg.
I know.
You're fine. Although you're also in the light, and I'm much less in the light.
Well, I guess.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Continue.
So it's an article that I read, basically talking about how psychoanalysis got popular within the British Empire and how they more or less tried to,
like, early Myers-Briggs type stuff, or what?
like Freud,
Oh, okay.
like dream analysis.
Ooh, boy.
And how they kind of tried to, like, you know, figure out, like, learn things about leaders and sort of like direct their empire through that thing. I actually only read the beginning of it, then I saved the article and then I didn't finish reading it, but gave me a really neat idea. What if you don't get prophecy from the lips of one oracle, you know, storing chemicals or breathing in gases, but instead from the collective dreams of your society that you take at random, you know, like there's basically like a lottery, like how jury duty works, that kind of thing. And you know, like you're like, shit, okay, this person's gonna go
take a simple random sample,
you know, gonna go, and then they come in and then they sleep, you know, during the day. You know, they take something to make them fall asleep, and then they get woken up, and then
perhaps they're hypnotized into speaking, narrating their dreams.
Possibly that, or there's like a somnolist who's there and like records, you know, like it wakes them and as like tell me what your dream, what all the things happened, and then writes it down. And then this is done many times.
Yeah.
Of all, you know,
this is a department of the government.
This is a department of the government.
Department of Homeland Planning.
Yep. Like in this is something that like a ton of money is thrown at, because
can you imagine, like,
this is the point of this is to predict the future.
Yeah.
All right. Like this is huge.
Can you imagine the public awareness and like public well-being campaign around like sleep quality in this place? It's like, in general, we want to make sure everyone's having good sleep so they can have good dreams, so we can randomly select them to tell us what their dreams are.
But I think they would only have those good dreams. There would be some I'm just calling them somnulists because I think it's cool, like somnolence.
Yep.
Right? You know, somnulists. Yep. That's pretty obvious.
Insomnia thing. Yeah.
Somnulists would probably they wouldn't be like, there's only a narrow range of time where people wake up in the morning, right? So they're not doing all their work then. They have to spread out their work over a much larger period of the day. So they have to induce sleep and wake people up a lot more often, right?
Yep.
So I think that most people would probably be kind of pissed when they get picked, because they're like, shit, that's a day of work that I don't get to do because I have to do this, right? So I just want to impress the idea that this is something pretty massive. This is something that, you know, it's only through trends seen throughout, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands are you able to actually accurately predict the future. So, you know, individuals record, you know, like, you know, one group of people record these dreams, and then they are then, you know, gone up to like another person who then, you know, on like a regional level, like incorporates them and looks for themes, and then kind of like writes down all the things that.
Can you imagine the manpower?
Yeah. And then it goes up to one step higher, where there's now one person that then, you know, predicts the future, like just
interprets the data,
right? And you know, and I think that's just like so bizarre and wild.
I actually think that could, like, grounded at least minorly in reality for me, because I assuming, of course, that like dreams imply how people are like feeling, how they are to feel, just general, kind of helps get your finger on the pulse of the nation, if you will. And so if that's the case and you conglomerate all this data, you can kind of figure out like how's the nation feeling right now and how they're feeling, like how can I balance how they're feeling right now with what the current state of affairs are and what's the reasonable prediction of the future because of that.
And then turn up the fantasy just a little bit, where it's like, no, these predict natural disasters. Like people will get down to, like when it's done perfectly, you'll know the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I like the idea of, you've got like a newspaper equivalent that's talking about like what
the to be times.
Yeah, or like that's just part of the news cycle now.
Yeah.
It's like what people think are going to happen. We heard someone say something.
And it's accurate, right?
Which it's as well, think about it like this. Like the news has an incentive to be inflammatory, to sell,
in the
sell
US.
papers. And
the news has a duty to be accurate and factual and level-headed. Greg,
this has been everywhere forever since the inception.
Drives me insane.
Since the inception of the newspaper, called the yellow paper.
Yellow journalism.
Yellow journal. Like from the inception of the newspaper, it has been it's been something that has been used to lie, or to exaggerate.
Now that I think about it, like news the news
we had
as
a very rare age of relative honesty.
That was the like broadcast ethics or broadcast whatever.
Like that
era.
was the exception.
It was like the Walter Cronkite
returning
era,
to the
right?
norm.
Yeah.
Anyway,
drives me
aside,
crazy.
So
these criers.
Exactly. They're saying like this is something that happened. That's just another thing. I like the idea of just like the like, oh, we're in bizarro land, like we're in a different reality, when it's like dreamers predict this like drop in the gold market as like this thing happened, as like new gold is found, like new gold is predicted to be found in India that will hyperinflate the right it's like sell your gold shares now, like or like that kind of thing.
Gosh, like that just screams to me like
dreamers predict wizard insurrection,
right? Like the only thing that I can think of with that is like a fake crier who's just like who's saying like sell all your gold now because he really wants to just like buy up a bunch of gold, and he knows that he's going to create a crash out of it. It was like basically the like the Bitcoin boom that happened, where it's like, oh my gosh, look at Bitcoin, like you got to get your hands on some Bitcoin. And then then like it gets to the peak and it's like, this was manufactured.
I also really like the idea of a storyline of a relatively low level somnolist that is like seeing strange and disturbing themes, is like seeing things that are like, oh, something's bad is going to happen. That's what I'm seeing here.
Like the weatherman who first predicts a typhoon,
and then brings it on up, and the person above them's like, I think you're wrong. I think it's fine. And then like continues to just see continues to just have things where it's like, I think like, the sense of like I think that I'm right. Everything leads me to do this. My training all says this, but no one else is agreeing with me. And now I'm seeing that the things that I said were going to happen, or I thought were going to happen, now actually are happening. And, having the sense of like one person feeling like they're the only sane person in the room. Right. Yeah. And then that person is now like, and now that person intersects with the party would be really interesting and neat. And the party has the like, okay, wait, what the fuck is this? What is a somnolist? Like, why is what is what you do even believable? It's like, oh
Mhm.
well, the government has invested 100,000 francs in this effort, and we successfully predicted this and this. Look at all of our record. And then someone
Mhm.
else is like, actually those particular things are contested, I don't know. And like, no, you're
Yeah.
it's something where I really like the idea of when it's when it's portrayed in setting. It's
Mhm.
something that it's got some controversy to it, where there's a
Yeah.
lot of people. It's like polygraphs, right?
Mhm.
Where I think anyone that's done their research can say that a polygraph test is completely is useless.
Yeah.
But
It's a
they're
scare
still but
tactic.
they're still used. And then but this is just on the opposite side of
Like it's actually
it
useful.
actually is useful, but it's used improperly,
Mhm.
or it's corrupted in some way, or like there's something,
Yeah, like the institution doesn't want the people to know of the impending
right,
disaster.
or it's, I mean, actually the real thing is that this is all military secrets. These are government secrets about
Yeah.
what this is. So it would make sense for you, like, you're not going to tell everyone about something bad happening, because that could be used by your enemy. And so
That's true.
there, and I think that would be really interesting, and I really like the ambiguity that would demand.
Mhm.
And the kind of like, I love that feeling of the like, can I trust this,
Mhm.
am I believing the right thing? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool feeling. I think it's really powerful. And obviously, like, I ran a game last week for Darren and friends.
Oh, yeah, Mothership, which is a
and
gnarly system.
and
Big fan.
one of the things I thought was really important was that, like, some of you split away, and like, okay, you're separate. We're in a different group chat
Yeah,
now.
being able
You're
to
not.
yeah, we were running it in Discord, and so we just like hopped into different like voice channels, which was
Mhm.
really nice.
And I think that as a player, I want to genuinely not know sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
there are some times when it's really fun to have that dramatic irony and
Mhm.
know you're getting into something, you're making the wrong choice, and that can be really fun. But there's other times where it's like, I I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing here? What is the right choice? And you have that moment where, like, you have to, like, make an important decision, and
Mhm.
you're like
And
actually
you're the
really
least
stressed
informed you've
out.
ever
Yeah,
been.
and you're actually really stressed out, and you're like, oh my god, like, what, that's the kind of thing that I want. Like,
Mhm.
I want to do that all the time. That's great. I love it. Oh yeah, I ran a Mothership game. It's great. I
Mhm.
ran The Haunting of Ipsilon 14. It's a really good module. You kind of have to read into it a little bit, because it's the front and back of one sheet of paper, so you definitely have to like parse it, right?
Yeah.
But it's great. Would recommend. There's a lot of resources online that people have made, uh, that came out that made it easier for me to run. Like, there was a whole terminal interface that I was just on someone's website that I was able
Oh,
to
yeah.
use.
You were just copy pasting that, I
Yep,
imagine, right?
it
Yeah.
was great. It was super cool.
Mhm.
The other people that I ran it for used it to blow up the base, and it was perfect. It was a really cool moment, like, because they hadn't really used the terminal yet before, and so, like, I typed it in. They're like, oh, it's this, and like everyone just got silent, because
Mhm.
the one person I was interacting with typed it out, right, and then I'm
And
just like selecting system scuttle, and then everyone was like, oh fuck.
oh my gosh,
It
that's
would,
actually super funny.
yeah,
And I don't know that that would go as well in person. I
yeah.
don't like
Like, and that like had to be used over Discord, actually,
yeah,
because of it had like some
like formatting
it had
stuff.
some formatting stuff, basically. um I
I
I
mean,
would have,
you could pull the raw text from that and like toss
yeah,
it into a couple different things, and
yeah.
but that'd be so
Really, what I
annoying
would
to
have done
do.
is I would have ended up sending it to, like, your phone,
Yeah,
right? I would have been like, okay, everyone's in this Discord channel, and then I would send it,
yeah.
from my laptop to everyone's phone. um yeah. I think that's pretty neat. I don't really have much more than that. It's something that the players probably couldn't really interface
Mhm.
with that much, but it would just be
So
another
would this
institution.
overlap with the dream?
Yes. So this only makes sense with the dream existing, right?
Yep. Okay.
so
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
you know, I think this is another thing where I like the idea of like the empire, whatever culture that uses this thing, actually has a pretty poor understanding of it as a whole. Others have a much better idea,
Yep.
but what they know is they're like, okay, you know, like there is a modicum of truth in every dream, right?
Yeah.
And we only know what's true and what's false when we look at it as a whole. And so they're like, well, we can use this to avert catastrophes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, we're gonna all in tons of money, you know, like full government program, right?
The idea
And-
that like the money that you use to prevent this will be more worse
Yeah.
than the recovery after.
Yeah, because it's like this is gonna because they're in their mind, it's like this is gonna prevent famines. This is going to let us win wars,
Yep.
right? Like you know, this will let us predict weather events, which you know is actually like really a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, if just for people who don't know this, at the beginning of like meteorology, like that was military secrets. You know, like that
Oh.
was not public knowledge. What the weather was going to be, that was considered, you know, classified military information, which is really neat. That now it's like literally on your phone, you know,
Yep.
for free. Anyway, I like the idea also where, you know, everyone's dreams are equal, but some are more equal than others. Where there'd be officials, there'd be people that would be considered important that would have personal like dream readers
Mm-hmm.
that would, you know, like basically like be there when you wake up naturally, and then like be right there to
Yeah.
do to write everything down. I think that would also be a neat thing to have, and it would be another like bit of detail and like to like kind of immerse people, where they're like, oh, this is, you know, or like another character where it's like, oh, this isn't so and so's handmaiden, like this is their personal somnolist
Mhm.
that actually knows their dreams, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that would be super cool. And then, you know, and then, you know, how are the dreams of these important people weighed against the others? Like you
Right.
don't really know. But you know, I bet if
I mean,
your
after-
country's run by Napoleon Bonaparte, like there's a couple people there writing them down when,
Oh, yeah.
when he wakes up, you know, and they debate, you know, they have you know, tempestuous debates over what actually means,
Mhm.
you know.
Like the cat means good fortune. No,
Yeah.
the cat means ill fortune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. And I kind of have this, I don't know how true this is, but this has been my kind of philosophy when it comes to like making a place feel real, is that it's about having just a little bit of detail. So you've got like the broad strokes, and then you have just a little bit of detail,
Mhm.
not too much to confuse or to weigh everything down, but just enough to, you know, make it feel different and unique in its own
Mhm.
place. And I think that's, you know, that works for like a room, you know,
Mhm.
to a person, to a campaign setting.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool too. Or a really good way of like describing it, where it's like you don't need a deep lore dump everything that you like
Yeah.
present to the players. You just need to make it seem like you show don't tell the details that are relevant.
Yeah.
And then if they want to dig into it, then
and
they
it's,
can.
It's definitely a lot more difficult in a tabletop game than anything else, where,
Mhm.
you know, in a,
I mean,
it-
because that you're basically telling everything anyways.
Yeah.
Because you're literally orating it.
in you know, in a book, like in something where the narrative is controlled, like you can just, you know, and all the actors in like in this story know what's going on except for the reader or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot different than, you know, all of your main characters, your players, actually don't know what's going on because you haven't spent the time to fully explain to them all the different intricate things of this place,
Yeah.
right? And so it's kind of difficult because, you know, honestly, like some of the most fun in reading is like figuring out like, wait, what? Like
Mhm.
like sort of like slowly parsing out
Like when you finally
what's
connect.
being described.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not even in a sense of like, oh, you know, this is like some thriller and they're trying to hide it from you. It's like, no, if you're a good writer, you're just not gonna like, you know, you don't just say everything at the beginning about what exactly everything is. Like you hint at something, and then you build that intrigue, and then you pay it off by explaining it later.
Yeah.
Or you don't pay it off, and then it's, and that's
Yeah.
fine too. And that's kind of hard to do in a tabletop game, because if the player wants to like behave sensibly about a certain thing, like they
Yeah.
actually have to know about it.
Yeah.
If they would as a as a character. So, but yeah, that's something that I think would be sweet.
Yeah.
I want that. I want the like you the like, oh you can't speak to so and so yet. They're having their what's the word that I'm looking for? Starts with an S. It's not siesta. It's when you take a midday nap when it's really hot out.
I would say siesta.
Is it siesta?
Yeah. Siesta is a Mexican culture thing,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Where it's just like, hey, it's the middle of the day, we're gonna eat lunch, take ourselves a little nap, get
Sure.
back at it.
I don't remember the word. But
Yeah.
having his siesta, it'll just be a couple of moments, and then as they wait, and then like as soon as you're ready, like the door opens, the players are let in, and then like the somnolist is sort of putting away their
journal.
pens and inks,
Yeah.
right? And I think that would be just like a neat little bit of detail. And it's another person where it's like, ooh, that person probably knows things about things, right? Like that, like a somnolist is someone that is like respected and is considered important.
Yeah, and also has like insight about like whose dreams like are more equal than others.
Yeah, like there's exactly, and they're probably someone that like people confide a lot in, right? Just
the therapist who only listens.
Yeah, just exactly, like just the just by their very nature, right? I think that would be a pretty neat kind of. I think it'd be a super neat character.
What if the Simulists had their tongues cut out so they couldn't speak what they were spoken to?
I feel like that's a little too edgy.
I mean, yeah, I just think it'd be neat. But yeah, no, super like extra edgy.
Yeah.
But like if it was a state secret and they didn't they wanted to make sure that it didn't go to anyone else.
Like they could have like vows of silence like a monk would. I think would be pretty cool. Or they're hypnotized in some way, right?
Yeah. I think there's very, very obvious through line between hypnotism and this too. Or like there's a very obvious way to like apply the hypnotism to this.
Yep.
Which is neat. It's nice when you can connect like two of your ideas together.
Yeah.
But I don't have a whole lot else on the dream stuff. Is there like if you were in the dream, right? If you were a denizen of the dream, and you kind of existed in the collective dream space of a town, would you be able to forecast like their future based on like kind of what they're doing in the dream, very similar to like a meteorologist? And would that be an alternate form of dream casting then? That's what I'm going to call it, is dream casting.
So I don't think so. I like I think that I like the idea of like when you are someone that has like ascended within the dream space and like knows about it and things like that, you're doing something that is kind of fundamentally different than what's going on in this survey of dreams, and that you have a very narrow perspective, and you're looking at one thing and you can go quite deep into some place, right?
Okay.
Like you can go and like you can
like you're a very deep puddle instead of a very wide.
Yeah, so it's like you can go into someone's dream and you can interrogate them and whatnot, and that would be something pretty interesting where like a somnolist is seeing a character reappear in people's dreams.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
And it's just like doesn't get it, like doesn't understand, like wait, how is this thing reappear? Like I'm seeing this theme like of a certain, like there's a certain trope of a kind of character that's suddenly appearing everywhere. What is this, right? And it's appearing in all these people, like it's obviously targeted in a sense. It's hitting a certain demographic, when really it is one person who is like, I need to find like I need to get into the dreams of every Freemason in this town to
Yeah.
figure out which one of them knows about this particular thing,
Mm-hmm.
or that I need where that's where I'm going to find the next lead, right?
Yeah.
To whatever, right?
Yeah.
I
I
think
think that'd be really cool
Yep.
to be like this. Yeah. Especially like if it was if for whatever reason a player character was like a denizen of the dreamland, or they could project into it or whatever,
Yeah.
and they then appear in that village a little bit later, and all of a sudden they're like, the one from the dream.
Yeah, and you're like,
and then they're like, I have predicted this.
Yep. Or yeah, I think that would be really cool. So I like the idea. I like theoretically you kind of could in some way, but probably not. It's sort of more like what you can predict. Like when you are someone that is very like that can do a lot more stuff while dreaming, is you can see a lot in the present moment is kind of what it is. You can view quite a bit in the present moment. You and there's a lot of like sort of subtle things that you can feel, like the health of like the grass and stuff like that, because that's also like living in a sense.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of subtle things like that you can then make a lot of predictions from. Like you just have a lot more present knowledge. But then this other thing, this the survey is something that actually does go beyond that and goes into the future. And how,
I think
it's not explained.
So I think it'd be neat to have like obviously basically this dream survey thing is basically just like mass statistics.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yep.
I think it'd be neat if like somewhere in that department there was like the mystic basically who like projected and then like sat, and I mean all weather forecasting is just taking a bunch of like present measurements.
Yep.
And then trying to
forward.
detail the future.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I think like you could have a dream forecaster there too that like is a secondary consultant. And like if you can see some like really gnarly shit, gnarly dreams coming in or whatever, maybe you can help.
So
do that.
The reason why I don't want that is because I want the dreaming ability is not like magic where like some people have it and some people don't. There's not something like that. It's something that like theoretically with enough training you could give it to a lot of people. So there's not if basically it's like if the technology was understood, it would be very widespread, and I don't want it to be widespread.
Oh, okay.
That's why. So that's why I don't want them to be in there. I want.
I see. So maybe there's someone who could do that. They're just not a government employee.
They could do that, but they're not involved in that. They're from another culture, or they've got or they've got problems with the system or whatever, right?
Yep.
And it's a secret that they want to keep, or it's something that they don't maybe really understand entirely themselves. Like they don't get how to teach other people. So that's why I want it to be separate, and because I don't want like dreaming to be like a known quantity in this state, in this like government infrastructure.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to be separate.
Yep. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And another thing is that at least there's other things that I think I would do this with, but I know in my setting, like the presence of undead causes nightmares.
Yep.
It's kind of like basically undead have a kind of undead, like undead that were spontaneously made, or undead that were there's kind of there is like undead, and then there is something that died and then their soul was put back into their own body and it stays there, and that's kind of different. But there's like a corpse dies and then you take a soul from somewhere else, from beyond the pale, and that thing that comes from beyond the pale is like an anti-life. Its very presence within the world gives bad mojo.
Resurrecting something Jesus style is okay, but like
so if Jesus died and then Jesus's soul was put in like a vase for 3 days and then put back into Jesus's body, that's okay.
Okay.
If Jesus died, his soul went into went into oblivion,
Yeah.
and then
came
back, first you wouldn't be able to tell who it was.
Yeah.
And it would be so irreparably changed when it came back that it is now like it's now something completely different and
Mhm.
monstrous.
Okay.
So that's kind of what it is. That's
Okay.
the
Makes
only
sense. And then that kind of like aura or
Yeah.
whatever causes the nightmares.
Yep. It's like a perversion and a corruption, and then it causes nightmares. So if a lot of people have nightmares in an area, then it's a suggestion of something terrible happening,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like that's like the most obvious useful thing that like these people would be able to tell
Mhm.
is like there's suddenly like a huge uptick in nightmares, and it's like, oh, okay, that means this thing is happening. And I want there should be a couple other things that do that, but I haven't really thought of them
Yeah.
yet. I haven't really come up with things that it would make sense. Like the undead one makes a lot of sense because the dreaming is a thing that it involves like different conscious and semi-conscious entities interacting with
Mhm.
each other, and like their souls interacting with each other.
Yeah.
And then the undead forever in my mind have been something that are like inhabited by a corrupted soul.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
so maybe I'll think of something else cool
Mhm.
with that, but that's something that also I want. I think that would be, it needs to have like it needs to feel very like British. I wanted to feel kind of British Empire-y, where it's
Mhm.
like this, it's a department of something like that. And I think that's just
Very
another
like bureaucratic.
very, very, very bureaucratic.
I can imagine like getting a note in the mail like, God damn it.
Yeah. Yep.
Gotta go into the ministry this week.
And
Ministry of Silly Sleeps.
Yep. And like this is the reason why the census is important. Like this and other things. Like this is
Mhm.
why censuses are important, is that you have to actually know about all of your subjects,
Yep.
so you can tax them properly, and then you can get them involved in all these other things. And it's sort of like it's from our perspective, being in like a like a digital age society, where there's a lot of things where it's like, oh, of course we need to have a social security number or whatever. Of course, all these things, like there it makes sense for us to be to have like a definitive person, like a
Mhm.
definitive categorization in like a diplomat, in like a bureaucratic sense.
Yeah.
But it actually also makes sense to do all that same thing in a historical society, right? In a Renaissance one, maybe less so a medieval
Mhm.
one, but in like a Roman society like that, that definitely they had censuses, like the so I think now that I've like kind of embraced the idea of having like a very, very structured and very bureaucratic
Mhm.
country.
Yeah, it's just another one of those things that like lends itself well to
You just create
like
you're able to create these bizarro institutions, and you're able to like make a place feel much more modern than you would expect.
Yeah. Which is super cool.
Yep.
All right, well, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think that's everything. Yep.
We're out. Thanks for listening. Greg?
Send us emails.
Yeah, that one.
What's our email address?
I think it's thelorefounder@gmail.com.
Yep.
Maybe it's just thelorefounder@gmail.com. No caps, no spaces. Tell me you said hi. I'll say hi
rate
back.
us and stuff.
Right.
If you know us in person, like talk about the thing that we said.
I like to talk about it.
Yeah. We back.
We're back.
Yep.
I mean, we're neither of us are wearing. Well, I'm wearing black jeans, so yes, I'm back in black.
Yeah.
It's Zach.
I
Something's
always I wear black all the time except for right now.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, Greg, for wearing non-black but still for the most part monochromatic colors.
Yeah.
Proud of you. Aside from the tan, but whatever.
But it's pretty desaturated.
Yeah, pretty desaturated.
Yeah.
Overall, a very uninspired look, but more inspired than black. And for that, we thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Thank you again so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Did you see that the snap that I sent everyone with that record your own lightsaber sound thing? Lightsaber. The first time I did it, it was like record something, but make sure we can hear it. And I was like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I started swinging around. I was like, blah, blah, blah. It was so freaking funny. And then I did it with nut, and Courtney recorded it. And it was like nut, 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 and I'm sitting like swinging this lightsaber
I'd
everywhere.
like to imagine, like, considering how loud you were the first time, that the second time you were just like, well, I have to say it loud so you can hear it, and you're just like, press down button, nut!